All right, good afternoon or good evening or good night, depending on where you're joining us from in the world, and welcome to Crazy Talk. For those of you who are tuning in for the first time, Crazy Talk is a Facebook Live TV show where I interview all sorts of people about all sorts of things related to mental health and mental wellness. I'm your host, Lee Thomas. If this is not your first time watching Crazy Talk, thank you so much for coming back. Glad we haven't scared you off. We love our regular viewers who tune in every single week on Wednesday evenings. And if you're watching this video, whether you're watching it live or watching the replay, hit that like button, hit that love button. If you see something in this video that you think will really resonate with someone you know, feel free to share it. And I think you will hear lots of things that will resonate with people because this week I'm really excited to be interviewing Renu Arora, who hails from Mississauga, Ontario, and is a self-proclaimed scientific energy healer. She has a BSc in biochemistry and practiced as a dietitian for 12 years before discovering the reality and power of energy healing. Curiosity piqued, she then spent the next several years researching the science behind energy work. Through working with mentors, other healers, and thousands of hours of practice with friends, family, and later clients, she has created her own modality called the Accelerated Release Technique, ART. Most of us understand that it is the emotional baggage from our past that keeps us from living our most joyful and fulfilling life today. Survival instincts were programmed as a result of trauma, and we haven't been able to release them. At its core, ART taps into the subconscious mind and resets the program, changing the pattern and freeing the individual from their past. We did have a little bit of problems earlier with technical difficulties, but we are back. So thank you, Renu, for being on the show.
And I'm super excited to be here. And I'm actually glad we're starting now. I feel a lot better about where this one's going to go. We're going to get this right this time.
Okay, awesome. And we're just gonna take a moment and wish for strong internet for both of us.
Yes, indeed.
All right. So, Renu, thank you so much again for being on the show. I'm really excited to hear a bit more about energy healing. That's something that I haven't had a lot of energy healers on the show, and it's not something it's not something I'm super knowledgeable about. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about kind of how or why you sort of got involved with energy healing.
Okay, so I'm just trying to do the Coles notes for how and why.
Okay.
Because it was kind of a long, twisty path. Like you announced, I have a background in science. I studied biochemistry. I was a dietitian for 12 years. I was completely skeptical of energy healing. I was the kind of person who said, if I don't see a double-blind, placebo-controlled study, I'm not going to believe it. So I thought all this stuff, energy work, was just for people missing a screw somewhere. Like it was I thought it was nuts. So, so basically what happened is, like I said, I was a person who said, I'll give myself a little bit of credit. I was skeptical, but open-minded. So I always believed, if you could prove it to me, I would believe it. So what happened to me is the universe gave me so much proof I didn't have any option but to believe. So the first thing that happened is I encountered this modality called BIE. That stands for Bioenergetic Intolerance Elimination. So what these guys do is they say, well, you know what, if you have an intolerance, like an allergy or sensitivity to something, like a food, something in the environment, plants, pollens, cats, dog, you name it. If there was anything you had sensitivity to, then they could correct it by reading the frequency of this particular thing. Let's say it was your cat Fluffy, and your Fluffy had a particular energy. They could read the energy of that, and the reason you were reacting is because your body didn't recognize that frequency, and they would run this through your, like they teach your body this frequency. And I thought, wow, this is bizarre. But okay. And I'm like, all right, and the gentleman who's telling me all this, I'm like, okay, you want me to believe this, really? And he says, well, let me show you. And I said, okay, go ahead, show me. I have a problem eating soy. Soy gives me a whole lot of gas and bloating, and I just feel miserable. So he tried this vial of soy, and he tested it on me, and he showed me how my body didn't like it. And that was actually kind of weird, the way my body responded to soy. It's a thing called muscle testing. And yeah, my whole body just got weak as soon as the soy was brought near me. It was the most, like, that was really, really, truly strange, but eye-opening. And then he put this soy on a machine. He ran this through my body, and he said, okay, after about 10 minutes, he says, you're done now. I'm like, so you're saying I can eat soy? And he said, yeah. Like, okay there. So, totally not believing this, but I had to try it. So a couple days later, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna try some soy. So I tried like a really large quantity of soy, because I couldn't try a little bit and then not be sure. So I had to take a lot and pray that it was going to work. Not that I expected it to work, but I hoped, because nobody wants to go through that pain. Now, for me, I would always experience the gas and bloating the next day, like the next morning. So I had this soy, and I woke up the next morning, and my stomach was rock solid. I'm like, that no. I mean, really? I ate so much soy, like literally the amount I ate should have had me in like so much bloating that I should have been incapacitated. It should have been so painful that I couldn't have got out of bed. And I was stunned. I'm like, no. It's just delayed. It's delayed. Maybe I had it late at night. I don't know. So I waited and I waited and I waited. I'm like, it's going to hit. It's going to hit. And it didn't hit. I'm talking 24 hours later. I'm like, this worked. This worked. This is legitimate. So I'm like, okay, that proof number one. Proof number one, like we do respond to the world. Everything's energy. If your body doesn't recognize something, you're going to react to it. So that was just amazingly eye-opening for me. And that was the first step in my journey. So almost needless to say, I went and took the course to learn about all this stuff. And then what happened a few little twists and turns later, I was about to work with a client, and a colleague, another BIE person, she basically told me that if you can find out the emotional root cause of this problem, of the reason they have the intolerance, then you don't even need the machine. And I'm like, what? That's really strange. But she gave me instructions on how to do it. And a guy came in, he had a whole bunch of food intolerances. And I thought, well, if I was going to use the machine for him, according to the protocol, this would have taken me months and months and months to do. So I chatted with him. He's a really good sport. I said, do you want to try this other way of possibly doing this? And he was like, sure. I'm like, okay, let's do this. And so I like I said, you can muscle test, and you can actually ask yes or no questions. And if your subconscious wants to answer yes, it will make your fingers super strong. If your subconscious wants to say no, your fingers will just like pop right open. So that was what I did. I picked up one of the vials, and I asked his subconscious, I said, is there an emotional root cause to this intolerance? And his fingers stayed so strong. It was like, yes. And I'm like, really? I almost hit the floor. I was like, there's no way, like, really? Because that was the very first time I'd asked a direct question of a person's subconscious, and his fingers were just so tight. And so from there, I'm like, okay, well, so a life event, and I went, yes. And okay, so I need some clues. I need to find out what this event is. So I had a sheet of paper with a bunch of emotion names and columns and rows. And I'm like, well, how many clues am I going to get? And just using like one, it said no, two, yes, three, no. Okay, so I'm going to get 2 clues. Any of these clues in the first column? Yes. In the first 10 in the first column? No. In the second 10? Yeah. And using this yes, no, I narrowed it down to 2 emotions, names of emotions. They happen to be like anger and resentment or something like that. And then I'm like, okay, well, I need more information. Who was involved? So we start talking family members, friends, whatever. So we narrowed it all down to anger, resentment, his mom, 10 years previous. And so I said to him, did you have an argument with your mother 10 years ago? And without, like, this took him a half second to say, I remember that argument. And I said, are you serious? I mean, seriously, if somebody asked me, hey, Renu, you had an argument with your mom 10 years ago, I'd say, which one? Like, of course I did. I'm like, that's like part of the status quo. So for him to know in a split second exactly what argument I was talking about, that threw me for a loop. But yeah, he told me all about it. He says, yeah, that was the year I got married. I had this wicked argument with my mother because I was marrying into a family where they're not vegetarian, and not my family happens to be vegetarian. And so my mother and I had this enormous argument because I told her I was going to start eating meat. So I'm like, yeah, I get that. Like, that would make some sense. So, so we talked about this event. We released it. Using the way that this other person told me, because it's completely different now. But we use that, and then I'm like, is there anything else? Muscle said no. I said, okay, well, let's try that vial of whatever it was we were testing, and it was strong. I'm like, it worked. Let's do another one. But they were all strong. Like it was actually like almost 40 different foods this poor guy was intolerant to. Every single one of them was strong. I'm like, how is this even possible? Like, am I just doing this wrong? Like, did I test them all wrong? But no, after that, I got the story. What happened was his, okay, well, nobody develops 40 food intolerances at one shot, right? Like that doesn't happen. Usually somebody, like you react to something, and then a few weeks or months later, something else becomes a problem, and then something else, and then something else. So that was this case with him. But for him, the very first category of foods he started to react to were meats. So you think about that. Think he's just got married. He's like a few weeks in, he's eating a burger and going, well, that's not nearly as enjoyable as it was last week. And it's his subconscious saying, hey, dude, does this maybe make you think about something? Like possibly the argument with your mom from a few weeks ago? But obviously he didn't do anything about it. He didn't put the connection together. So a few weeks later, his subconscious says, well, okay, let's just add something else. So now you're going to react to pork. Okay, that didn't work. Well, now chicken. All right, that didn't work. Okay. Dairy, eggs, cherries, rice, nuts. So over the course of years, the subconscious was basically getting more and more frantic, trying to get his attention to resolve this old life event. So now 10 years later, he finds me. We get to the root cause, and his subconscious gets to say, thank heavens, I don't need to signal you anymore. So every single one of his food intolerances vanished. And I was in touch with him even 4 years after that. And the food intolerance, they never came back. They were gone. So, so that was a pivotal moment for me. Like that was like the subconscious not only impacts our life today, but it's smart. Like it's really trying to get our attention. So the stuff happening in our lives right now, it's a direct signal. And that's all it is. That's all it is. And the worse the problem is, it's basically your subconscious getting a little more frantic. And really, it's like, I am trying to get your attention. Will you please listen to me? So early on, they're small. Later on, they're bigger. But it's really trying to get to those single life events and resolve them, release them, get them so they're no longer creating angst or anxiety or embarrassment or sadness or whatever it happened to be that was stuck in that moment in time. And yeah, so after that, I was driven. I'm like, I have to know more. I have to understand this. So like I said, I connected with other energy healers. I like mentors, researched everything I could. And I'm not going to say I did this alone. There was a big chunk of it I did with a mentor. And then later on we split off. But we created an energy healing modality that was all our own. And then when we parted, I continued to do the work and continued to sort of add and grow. And that's where I am now. So and I'm having an amazing time. Just the healing that I see, the just being able to help so many people overcome so many obstacles and barriers in their life and just be free. I can't even express how rewarding that really is. So I'm on a mission to keep going.
And that sounds really like I think we hear a lot in mental health kind of about this disconnect between kind of our brains and our bodies and our emotions and our conscious and our subconscious. And like there seems to be like a disconnect a lot when it comes to kind of mental health and wellness. So how would someone start listening, you know, when their subconscious is talking as opposed to listening when their subconscious is yelling? You know what I mean? Like how do you start listening to those instincts or to
Actually,
that
actually,
voice?
you know what? I've come up, because when I'm working with my clients, I need them to be able to tell me when their subconscious has released something. Like they actually, like this is something we do in session. Because each of those issues, like when we have a life event, what we take from it is a belief. That's really what like, yes, there's stuck emotions and all that, but it's a belief that keeps following us. And it's that belief that is impacting our life. So when we um let's say I'm talking to an entrepreneur. And one of those things entrepreneurs have to do is follow up. We have to make phone calls. We have to do emails. We have to make phone calls. So one of those things that we'll do say is, I've got my list. I've got here all the people I have to call. I've got all the phone numbers. I've got my phone, and maybe I'll go do my laundry. Maybe I'll go do something else. So somehow there's this block. There's resistance, and there's usually a belief that's actually underneath the resistance. It's underneath the like, it's like they want to do something but they can't. And if you really investigate, you'll find, maybe it's a belief that says, nobody's going to listen to me, or I'm not worthy, or I don't deserve any better, or something along those lines. But it's a very, very particular belief, and each of those beliefs was picked up somewhere. So how do we know we've got a belief that we need to resolve? It's actually kind of interesting. It's cool. I call it the subconscious conscious disconnect. So you know how sometimes people will say something, or you'll say something, like we'll find ourselves repeating certain phrases or whatever. Well, if we say something, okay, backtrack a little bit. Everything in the world should be as easy to say as the sky is blue or the sky is pink, because there's absolutely no emotional connection to those phrases. I know the sky is blue. I don't care one way or the other. I know the sky isn't pink. Once again, I don't care one way or the other. They're just words. But we can, okay, you've heard of people doing affirmations. So let's say,
Yeah.
and the reason we do affirmations is because when we initially say something, it's hard to say. Like not me, but I mean, if somebody was having an issue with self-love, and they look at themselves in the mirror and they say, I love myself, and they like choke on the words. Well, that's because, like the sky is blue, that's something that they really want to believe, but they don't. So there's a disconnect between what the conscious mind wants and what's going on in the subconscious. The same thing works when it's a negative. So if it's something negative, like people don't like me, like if I believed that and I said, people don't like me, oh, ew, that feels icky. So again, there's that disconnect. It's like, I don't want to believe that, but I do.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's anything that you say and it just kind of makes you go, ugh, take note. That is a belief that you are carrying, and there's a reason for it. It's got a root somewhere. So you don't have to wait till like you've got back pain that can't get you out of bed, or well, ridiculous anxiety or whatever. Like, you don't have to wait till it gets that far. Just think about what you say and what you hear. So like I've had I might be chatting with my business coach, and he'll say something, and all of a sudden, like, I want to cry. Like it's just he said a phrase about something I should do or could do or whatever, and I just go, ugh. Like, okay, I got to write that down, because clearly, clearly I have a belief in here that I don't like, and because I know how, I can go in and say, all right, let's just knock that one to the curb. I don't need that belief. But that's something that the average person can still do. They can identify it and say, okay, here's something that needs to be addressed. This is something that needs to be worked on, because I don't like having this belief. And that's how you do it. It's actually very, very easy to identify.
Easy to identify. Yeah. I feel like probably less easy to,
to kick to the curb. But
yeah, because I feel like a lot of people have these kind of beliefs that have become very foundational for them, right? Like if I, believe that I am unlovable or not worthy or not likable or whatever it is, like I've built my whole life around that. You know what I mean? Like people make so many decisions based on those things. So do you find it's a very emotional experience for them to let go?
Emotional to let go. It's not so bad. The letting go is actually not that bad, because the hardest part is when they find it, like because that really is the most difficult part for a session with me. We actually have to identify the very specific belief, and the thing about when you say that belief out loud or in your head, it makes you feel awful, because that's the signal. It's like you say these words and they sound so horrible. So that's the difficult part. Once we start releasing it, it becomes easier to say, and then easier and easier, and sky is pink.
Yeah.
I'm unlovable. The sky is pink. Nope, nothing. So that's when we know that negative belief is not present anymore.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I think that like the conscious unconscious disconnect, is that what it's called?
I say subconscious, other people say unconscious.
Sorry,
it's the same. I haven't figured out which. I don't know. I've always liked the term subconscious. So so that's what I say. But unconscious conscious disconnect is still good.
And so that disconnect, it really resonates with something that I hear a lot in various mental health circles, where people will say, because we see with, CBT or that sort of thing, like challenging your thoughts.
Yeah.
And people will say, I've challenged this thought, but I don't believe it. And so that finding that belief connection, I think, is very, very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so kind of going back to, you mentioned you used as an example entrepreneurship, which is, a cause near and dear to both of our hearts.
Yes, indeed.
And so I guess kind of on a more personal level, in terms of the way that you manage your mental health and your mental wellness, I've been in that situation with that list and, been like, oh, I don't want to make these calls. I don't want to deal with the rejection that is just part and parcel of, being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
How do you like, do you use these techniques on yourself? Is it a self-administered
all the
thing?
time?
Okay.
Oh my God. It's almost, I keep having to tell myself, it's a good thing to invest time in yourself. It's, because I'll have my list of things and tasks and things to do, but something will go in, it's like, no, but I got to work on X. So let's fix X. So yeah, no, I work on myself constantly. So now, like I used to be that person who had difficulty making phone calls and all that. Now I can pick up the phone and talk to anybody. Now, for me, the next thing on my list is time management. I got to work on my time management skills. But again, that's on my list. I got to stick that in my schedule and have time to work on my time management, right?
Yeah, making the time to find the time to make the time.
Exactly. So yeah, but so many things that I've worked on, like even this week, abundance. It was insane because somebody was giving me a gift, and I found myself saying, but I haven't earned that. And I went, why am I saying that? oh my word, I am blocking my ability to be abundant. So I immediately said, okay, let's start working on this. What's my negative belief? What's my like, what do I want to believe? Well, I want to believe that I am attracting abundance. And I had to take the time to eventually be able to say, oh yeah, I am attracting abundance. And now since then, like just the number of things that have been coming into me, and I'm just saying, okay, let's bring it on. I'm ready to attract abundance. So just in the last week or so, more clients, more opportunities. It's wild how fast it shifts, because that's the law of attraction. And that's a whole nother, I mean, mental health law of like it's for me, it's all one. It's all the law of attraction, but we won't worry about that in a mental health show. But that's what it is.
Yeah, and there's so much that I want to talk about in so many ways that I want to kind of build on this, but our half hour goes by so fast, which is wild. I know we started a little late, so we're ending a little late as well.
Yeah.
But for the folks who are watching, or for people who are watching the replay, if you know what you're saying is resonating with them, which I suspect it is, how can they reach out to you? How can they find out more about the work that you're doing?
The easiest way is to go to my website, healfromyourpast.com.
Okay.
I think it's kind of appropriate because that's what I do. So yeah, and then if you want to connect with me, like straight through the website, it'll give you my email address, my phone number, all those good things, or Facebook, Heal from Your Past. You'll find that there as well. Yeah, those are probably the easiest ways to connect with me.
Love those online entrepreneurs who all have websites and Facebook pages. I love it. So for those of you who are watching, we will put a link to that in the comments below about 5 minutes after the end of the show. So Renu, thank you so much for being on the show. It was really enlightening having you on and making these connections between, you know, the energy work that I'm less familiar with and the mental health work that I'm more familiar with. So that was really amazing. So I really appreciate you being on the show.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. And it was nice to reconnect with you again, too.
It was great to reconnect. Yeah. It was so good seeing you again. And for those of you who are watching and going like, wow, Crazy Talk is so much fun. I want to get episodes of Crazy Talk directly to my inbox. You can do that by signing up for my mailing list at leethomas.ca. I will also put a link to the mailing list in the comments below about 5 minutes after the end of the show as well. And be sure to tune in next Wednesday at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, which is our brand new time for the past couple weeks, where I will be interviewing another fabulous guest about all sorts of stuff related to mental health. Renu, thanks again for being on the show. I really appreciate it. And we will see everyone next week. Bye, guys.